Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and I hope we can make this a really enjoyable presentation. My name's Jordan Pence. I'm with the American National Regional Office. Our company is called Advisors Resource Company, and we've been working with American National for quite a while. And I've developed a really good relationship with them. So, I guess I can go ahead and get started. It's now just after 11. So let's get going here. Just want to make sure everybody's joining in. And yeah, let's do it. Whoops, advance my slide here. So American National's product, we've got some really great index options. Obviously, like any UL, flexible payment options. Obviously, you're going to get death benefit protection. And we have accelerated benefit riders. In addition to that, we have great loan features and other additional benefits that make this product really powerful for you or the folks that you're working with. So I'm going to start it off with just a simple illustration. This is a max overfunded illustration on a 50-year-old male. I just went ahead and did preferred versus standard. Will give you maybe like a 3 to 5% benefit on that, or kind of benefit on the cash value. So anyways, this was a $2,000 a month presentation, and the minimum death benefit is approximately $326,000. This includes the accelerated benefit riders. I wanted to share a little bit about the indexing options inside the policy. So we have 6 indexes there. I'll really highlight 3 of them. But the first one is the Mark V. And you can see that, let me get I got a laser pointer. So let me get the laser pointer out. So the Mark V is right here. They call that the low volatility index. It has a 0 floor and 150% participation. So that's really exciting. I mean, that thing looks fantastic. And what I'll really highlight is the 20-year average rate on that is 8.95. So I mean, extremely high level of return over a 20-year period. I think it looks really good in this. It looks really attractive for people who want something that's maybe not directly correlated to the market. I'll speak a little bit more as to what the Mark V is, maybe a little bit later. We also have a NASDAQ 100 option. So that's a 0 floor and 9.5 cap. And, that's averaged over 20 years, 6.9. And then on the S&P 500, I have 2 multiplier strategies, an uncapped strategy, and then something they call the value cap, which is just a 0 floor and a 9.5 cap. The uncapped, I think, is pretty can be pretty lucrative. So it's a 0 floor, no cap with a spread of 6. By the way, that's one of the best around. The multiplier and multiplier plus, one is basically a 1.9 fee with a 24% bonus, multiplier, whatever you want to call it. And the other one is a 3.65 charge and a 60% multiplier. Both have 0 floors and 12 caps. So a little bit of a spin on, a standard vanilla S&P, and you can see that data right here. I think the multiplier is great for people if they understand it. I think unfortunately in our business, maybe the agents aren't exactly explaining the multipliers properly because they're very complicated, I think. I mean, the actual way that you calculate the returns is different than what you would think. So I think that's an important thing to consider when you're considering those options for your clients. So if I move on to the next slide, I'm just simply showing like the last 20 years performance. And the only reason I really want to bring this up is just to demonstrate how the indexes work. So for example, if you pick out, maybe year number, let's see, let's just pick out year number 2. You can see the 1.5 times the 10% on the Mark 5. You can see the NASDAQ 100 growth cap at 9.5. You can see the multiplier plus hits the cap there at 14.37. And the multiplier regular hits it at 12.41. And that's that's kind of like the max that you can get after the fee. And I have the uncapped hitting the 20.36. And then obviously the value cap hitting the 9.5 because it hit the cap there. And then this is just the next page of results. Basically, it just continues on from there. So what I did is I included a full ledger here from that original presentation that I did. This is using minimum non-max death benefit here. So we're really getting the death benefit pretty low. And we're including a $2,000 a month premium on this. So the non-guaranteed area, which is over here, is assuming 6%. And then I have the non-guaranteed alternative, which is assuming that 3.5. And what you'll notice is we have really good surrender values in the first, well, really quite early because of how we're overfunding this. Year 5, really, I guess it would be probably around year 6 is sort of a break even. And then by year 10, we're well over what we've put in. So, as you know, these contracts are typically front loaded, and to overcome the expenses that soon is actually looks really good. So I think that's a pretty big benefit there. And it actually looks really good. So this continues on. I stopped premiums after 10 years and just had income come out. This is utilizing the variable loan. And so there's a bit of a spread on there. This just continues on till age 100 is where we stop the income. So you can just kind of see how that works. So this is a good opportunity to bring up the loan rate or the loan options. So I have two loan options: a variable loan, which is at 3.6% right now. Previously, it was a little bit below 3. Obviously, interest rates have gone up a little bit. So with the variable loan, the collateralized cash value stays in the index. So on that previous illustration that I ran, it's abiding by AG 49, AG 49 criteria, AG 49A actually. And so the gross rate of return was 6%. So the net loan rate was 5.5%. The actual loan rate, like I said, is 3.6. Now, if you don't know this, when you do a variable, some companies refer to it as an index loan. There might be other names that companies have invented for this, but at American National, they call it the variable loan. And the variable loan, when you take a loan out of it, they collateralize that portion of the cash value, however it stays in the index. So for example, if you take out a $10,000 loan, right now they charge you $360. That 10,000 is still earning interest on whatever index option you choose. So if you get a credit of, let's say 6%, that'd be a $600 credit, and you would have a net of $240 on the loan. So that's kind of a nice feature of index or variable loans, really. Now, one thing I get asked a lot is, wouldn't a guaranteed loan rate on an indexed, or most companies, if it's a fixed index loan rate, they call it an index loan. But wouldn't an index, or maybe participating or something, but wouldn't a fixed rate be better, a guaranteed fixed rate? And it may be better in certain circumstances. However, if you think about it, right now we're in a low interest rate environment. So those insurance companies that are giving out those fixed rate index loans are actually making a reasonable profit on the spread, because the spread is presumably somewhere around 1.5%. So right now, your client or you have access to a very low loan rate. And then over the long run, let's say interest rates do get over and above 5%, maybe they're 6-7%. Well, companies that have a guaranteed fixed loan at 5% may experience something that's known as disintermediation, and they would have too many loans at a low interest rate, lower than market rate. So they'd have to adjust other non-guaranteed elements of the policy, like the cap rates or maybe the participation rates or whatever. They'd have to adjust to make up for those losses. Otherwise, they're going to suffer extreme problems financially. So it's actually better for the long run and the short run if you have a floating rate where the insurance company is adjusting that rate based on prevailing market rates. Because, if interest rates rise, or maybe I should say when interest rates rise, the insurance company should be able to increase their cap rates, increase their participation rates, depending on the strategy. So there's a lot of benefits to having that sort of floating rate. So I get that question about variable rate all the time, especially with the recent jump in interest rates. So quite frankly, I think guaranteed index loans is a bit of maybe a marketing thing. It's kind of it's kind of a wash maybe in the extreme long run, but at least today in current interest rates, this is in your advantage significantly. Other loan option that we have is a traditional washed or fixed loan. American National happens to call it a fixed loan, but really it's a traditional loan. They charge 6% and they put it into a loan collateral account that earns 6%. So net zero, it's a wash. Now, one idea or one thing to consider is loan rescue. I've done this on a lot of old whole life policies, loaned out UL policies, things like that, where we can actually 1035 over the gross cash value and bring down somebody's loan rate. Now, because of AG 49A, AG 49, it's hard to illustrate how good that is. But if you think about it, if you have a gross loan rate of, I don't know, I've seen whole life policies that have an 8% loan rate. If I can change that policy, maybe it has a gross cash value of 100,000, net loan of 75,000. If I can bring that over and rescue that loan in an IUL, we're going to see significant performance bumps. So I just got a question about how about solving for the minimum death benefit and layering in term to cover the insurance shortfall over 25 years. Advantages is best for the client. I mean, we've done that quite often for clients where we'll, I wouldn't call it a blend because it would be a separate policy, but we set up a separate policy to meet the insurance shortfall that they have. We also have an interesting guaranteed UL product that we'll utilize for that too, because it has guaranteed return of premium. So I think that's another interesting way to do it, but we do that quite frequently, actually quite often. So you just have to do it in two policies. So anyways, that loan rescue, if you do have a policy that's got a high level of loans, we can actually save it and preserve that gross cash value and earn you more interest because of the spread. We've got the 3.6% loan. If you're coming from an old whole life with maybe an 8% loan or something like that, it can be a huge advantage. In addition to that, I alluded to the living benefit riders, the accelerated benefit riders. This is just some output for it. Quite frankly, if you're overfunding a policy, you're probably better off just taking cash value out of it, as opposed to utilizing some of the accelerated benefit riders. In many cases, there may be some extreme cases where you're not, or maybe in the early years where it might make more sense to utilize the accelerated benefit riders. But we have the accelerated benefit riders. It's for critical, chronic, and terminal illness. Qualifying critical illnesses include, like cancer, heart attack, stroke, just significant life expectancy altering, illnesses or health problems, things like that. So that's kind of how that is, and that's discounted based on the life expectancy of the insured. We have the chronic illness rider as well, which is for the if you can't do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, or have some sort of cognitive impairment, then you can qualify for that. And then finally, the terminal illness is same as everybody else. You have 2 years to 2 years to live, and so forth. So now, and like I said earlier, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about a presentation that we put together for the folks that we're working with it. We call it the comparison of alternatives. Is probably a bad name, but it's really a alert presentation where we're comparing different ways that you can accumulate as compared to life insurance. So one of the first big things about it is we want to compare the advantages of accumulating using life insurance as compared to the other ways that somebody could save. So I'm going to go top to bottom. Many of you may know these reasons. That's probably why you're on this webinar, but top to bottom, the biggest thing it doesn't have is the tax deductible contributions or premium payments. The only thing that does is qualified plans. The income tax deferred growth of values. The only thing that doesn't have that is your taxable investment account. No contribution limits. Only the qualified plan has contribution limits. No 10% penalty prior to 59 and a half, assuming you take loans. The only thing that doesn't have that is the tax deferred, which is an annuity in the qualified plan. No RMDs, not taxable during lifetime. We could do a disability completion rider, estate tax favorably, income tax-free death benefit, and creditor protected values, at least in Texas and many other states. If you live in one of those states, you likely know it, or we can certainly let you know, but there's many states that have creditor protective values. So in our presentation, one big talking point that I like to hit on is, where do you think tax rates are going to be in the future? So, that's how the different accounts work. But today we're in a relatively low tax environment. So where do you think taxes are going to be in the future? And I think that's an important question or thing to bring up. So this is a graph of the highest marginal income tax rates. And as you can see, we're in a relatively low environment today. I mean, it's been lower, but it's also been much higher. And so the question is, given the amount of government spending that's been going on lately, given the debt, where do you think taxes will be in the future? And I would say, I don't know if I've ever heard anybody say that they're going to be lower. And I think it's kind of a misnomer for many people that say, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket when I retire. I mean, lots of people say that. I'm not sure how often that happens in reality, unless they didn't save enough for retirement. So here's the details of our presentation here. I'm using the same illustration as earlier, so not a huge surprise there. I'm using the 6% rate of return. I'm using that actually for all the alternatives as well. And I'm putting in the 24,000 a year in everything. And then we're accounting for taxes and displaying the income. So this is our presentation actually. And I think this can be an extremely powerful presentation. And we can certainly put one together for you. So just let me know after the meeting here, and I'd be glad to put one together for you. But what this is showing is the amount of after-tax income that you could take out of all of these alternatives, including the life insurance, from age 66 to 100. So this is really exciting because we're actually accounting for the taxes, and then showing you the differences. I'm not even addressing the power of the indexes. I'm just simply really highlighting the maybe efficiency of this type of product and how that works. So 10 pay, 24,000. Insurance, you can get out 23,000 from 66 to 100. Taxable investment, if you account for all the taxes, you can get out, let's call it 19,000. Annuity, I can get out after tax, 17,000, let's call it. And then the qualified plan, after tax, I can get out almost 22,000. Now, the qualified plan and her presentation here, I'm assuming that you have the same tax rate up front as you do on the back end. So what I mean by that is I'm grossing up the deposit to the pre-tax amount, which comes out to be somewhere around 34,000. So I'm going from 24, I'm putting 34,000 into it. And then I'm assuming the same tax rate on the back end. So like that's going to look fantastic, of course, because that's going to be the most tax efficient. But if you make the mistake of getting a deduction when your taxes are low and then paying taxes when taxes are high, that's going to affect the outcome. Let's just say drastically. I mean, that's going to look like not going to look very good. So you got to keep that in mind with our presentation here. Now I can adjust that and show you the effects of that, but I'm assuming the same on the front end and on the back end. That's pretty unlikely. And I've heard it many times from advisors, and I've also worked with accountants. So advisors will say, "Well, my clients, their tax rate will be lower when they retire." And out of all the accountants that I work with, they always say, "Well, their taxes actually end up being higher because they don't have the deductions that they had, and so on and so forth, and they saved enough." And this is assuming they save enough. I mean, if you don't have enough saved, then obviously it doesn't make sense. But anyway, so here's sort of the details. You can see my deposit in the qualified plan of the 34,000. I've got 24,000 going into each of them. I've got the cash value at 65. I've got the net death proceeds at 65. And then I have the after-tax income and then the total income. And then this just simply goes on to my next page, which this is a pretty interesting page. This is an interesting graph that we include here. And so all I'm saying is if you match the income and all of the alternatives, what would you have to earn in each of them to achieve those results? So stated differently, the mutual fund account has to earn 7.3% to match the life insurance at 6. And that's this right here. This. And then, sorry, I have another screen over there. And then I have my annuity earns 7.8% to match the life insurance. And obviously, like I said earlier, the qualified plan is going to be the closest at 6.3. So sort of an interesting presentation that really breaks down. Yeah, this sounds great, Jordan, but how does it actually compare when you actually put, pen to paper, and is this a good value? So this really allows us to quantify whether or not this is a good value. And I think it's a great value for the right people. My next idea or presentation that I wanted to bring up, and I'll make this one relatively quick because it's very similar to the last one, and it's buy term and invest the difference. The myth of buy term and invest the difference. Why that doesn't work, or maybe it does work, but what are the challenges with it, and how can you make an accurate comparison? So the myth is that you buy term and invest the difference because, you're going to, you're paying for all those fees on the life insurance policy and it's very expensive, and you could just buy term and it's much cheaper. And then if you invest the difference between the term and the permanent premium, then you're going to get a much better return on it, and you'll have more retirement income. And those agents just want to sell you the permanent because it costs more and blah blah blah. So we've all heard that before. And number one, you got to think about the sources that it comes from, I think, but that's a whole nother discussion. And the audience that they're going for. So number one, you got to think about if somebody's trying to explain the complexities of an index product or a universal life product or any type of insurance product through the phone or through the internet or through a video or on the radio or whatever. What do you think people want to hear? They want to hear, oh yeah, you should spend as little as possible on that. I mean, that's like the most attractive advice. Hey, you know what? You should try to spend as little as possible on something. I mean, everybody thinks that's just like a no-brainer almost. And then secondary, a lot of the people that they're working with are maybe, well, they're probably aren't candidates for this type of strategy. So anyways, that's besides the point. The other problem is most investors rarely get above 2.5% over a long period of time. So, and that's by a study from Dunbar's actually, or Dalbar's. It's a little bit cut off here, but anyways, there's a lot of times you'll hear you're going to self-insure, so on and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of different arguments for not buying permanent insurance, but the reality is life still happens and you might still want the coverage. So details exactly the same as the previous one. Term premium for the 300,000 of coverage on the 50-year-old, we calculated out to be $790. Okay, if you could get it for less, you can get it for less. That's besides the point. Doesn't really matter for this discussion. And what we do is we take 24,000 minus 79. I'm sorry, 790. Put it in a side fund. We're assuming a 20% tax rate. And here's the results on the income. Life insurance, 23,400. We saw that earlier. Buy term, invest the difference at 6% rate of return. You only get 18,000 out of it. You have to earn 7.5 to match the life insurance. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer when you take into consideration. Now you have to have the money. And to the question earlier, you have to have, you need enough coverage. So, like to overfund $1 million policy on a 50-year-old, that could be like $100,000 premium. That's going to be a big number in there, So, okay, yeah, maybe there's other reasons, but to argue that if you have the money to put it in a permanent policy, don't do it. I'm not sure that makes sense in the context of this type of presentation. So details are just here. I don't think I necessarily need to go into the minutia, so to speak, of this, but you can sort of get the idea. Now, what I want to point out is look at the straight cash value. The cash value at 65 on the life insurance is more than the tax, the term plus the side fund. And I found that pretty interesting there. That's a good sort of talking point. Anyways, this is just more of the details and the gross crediting rate, the net crediting rate. We assume a 1% fee. I think that's pretty fair. And then this is the rest of our proposal where we're showing side by side the year by year numbers, which I also find relatively interesting because you can sort of, pick off various years and look at kind of where the cash values are and whatnot and how they differ based on, based on different things. So I think it's just an interesting proposal. And this just goes on to age 100. Now, my final topic is the historical returns. I brought it up a little bit in the beginning, but I wanted to circle back around here at the end because I think this is, besides the loan feature, this is one of the more attractive features of this product. So I've got some analysis that we've done, and this is based on a longer historical period than what you see in the illustration. And so I did. These are what we recommend. I recommend the NASDAQ 100, zero floor, 9.5 cap. The Mark V, zero floor, no cap, 150% participation, and the S&P uncapped. Now, maybe this one's not ideal for everybody, but I think when you mix these together, it provides a good balance. That's a zero floor, no cap, 6% spread. That's one of the best out there. So this goes on to have the last 20 years performance. I don't think this is that important other than, like, for example, if you look at, the year 3, the S&P did 17. You can see what the uncapped did. It would have done 11.7. So like S&P 17 minus 6%, that's where you get there. So that's how that works. If it's less than, 6, for example, you just get 0. So it's not like a negative return. I don't really, like one of these negatives years or something. But anyways, so that's just the last 20 years. So the S&P 500 over the last 20 years did 6.3. NASDAQ 100, 6.8. Mark V, I mean, this index is exciting, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. 8.3, and then uncap 6.3, 6.4, let's call it. So moving on from there, we do an interesting analysis, and I think this is pretty thorough, and I like to share this with clients and agents alike, but I like to share this with people. And NASDAQ 100, go back in history, assuming that zero floor, 9.5 cap, worst 20-year period, 5.5. Median is 6.5, and then best 7.6. So over all the history of the NASDAQ, you have been somewhere between 5.5 and let's call it 7.5 over a 20-year period. That's pretty good. These are just the worst scenario, the worst 20-year period, middle, best. And so that goes on for 20 years. So you see those continuations. I mean, that's a pretty good story. Now, the Mark V. The Mark V was invented somewhere around, I want to say 2018, 2017, something like that. So before 2017, these are all what you would call like back tested or projected is what they might call it. And so this is assuming all that history. The Mark V is sort of an algorithm. It's comprised of gold, S&P 500, and 10-year treasuries. And so they weight those three based on the inverse of the volatility. So the more volatile something is, the less weighting it gets. So it's kind of an interesting mix of assets. So like if the S&P 500 is super volatile, it weights that lower than the other two. So that's why it's got a zero floor and it's uncapped. I mean, it's pretty low volatility, so it's cheap to hedge. And so when you do this back testing, now this is after the 1.5, 150% participation. So worst 20-year period, 6.6. Median is 7.8. And the best is 9.2. So pretty strong performance in your index product there. I mean, that's, worst, middle, best. So that's not bad. This is the next one. I mean, this is the continuation of those. And then the final one that I have is the uncapped strategy. S&P 500, 6% spread, no cap. These numbers are after the spread. Worst 20-year period is 4, middle 8, best 11.5. I mean, this is fantastic. I have some clients and myself that got it was a 44% return on some segments. And I mean, just massive insurance, massive credits in these policies. And it's kind of unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that in insurance policies. So, and this was back in 2020, when COVID hit and market crashed, and they dumped all that money in there and it went up back up. So, that's how it goes. But anyways, worst, middle, best, pretty strong performance there. And then the final, and maybe this is too much information. I kind of like it, but I don't know. Maybe it's too much information. So anyways, this is some statistical analysis based on those three indexes. I have the average return, the median return, which we saw earlier, and the standard deviation. Oh, sorry. It's allergy season in Texas. So I have the standard deviation and the average. So anyways, the point of all of this is we can reasonably project out some probabilities based on those numbers. And what you'll find is NASDAQ 100. If I look at 6%, 85.7% of the time we'll do 6% or better over a 20-year period. Mark 5, let's see here. I'll just pick up let's just say 6.6%. 97.1% of the time it'll do 6.6% or better. And then the uncapped strategy, I can pick out whatever, 6%, let's say 90% of the time over a 20-year period, it does 6% or better. So really that's the main highlights about this product that I think are really exciting. The index crediting options, the loan options, reasonable expenses, and then our presentations that we can put together for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I appreciate the time for attending here. We'll be doing some follow-up. I'll send out emails, and me or Brendan here in our office will give you a call. So feel free to ask any questions. I'll stick around for maybe another, I don't know, minute or two, answer any questions that anybody has, and we'll just go from there. So thanks again for joining me. I hope you found this interesting. And if you have any questions, feel free to call us or shoot me an email, and we can go from there. Thanks.